Why should a woman clap her hands if the Imam forgets in the recital? Well, why don't women lead Salah normally in the masjid? A woman standing in front of all of the men bowing and prostrating. Is this about her voice? No. It's just not appropriate. It's not appropriate. It's not an issue of her voice. Why? Because there is an authentic narration found in Abi Dawood, Sunan Abi Dawood, and Sahih ibn Khuzaymah, also collected here in Bulugh al-Maram, in which Waraqa, one of the female companions of the Prophet ﷺ, was instructed by Rasulullah ﷺ to lead the members of her household in prayer. She led the members of her household in Salah. And Prophet ﷺ used to walk by the house and heard her reciting. And he didn't say to her, "Woman, be silent, your voice is aura." Also, we have how many narrations of women getting up in the masjid and asking Prophet Muhammad ﷺ questions. And he didn't say to them, "Woman, your voice is aura." So, the argument that the woman's voice is not to be heard is not in accordance with the practice of Rasulullah ﷺ or that of the Sahaba. In terms of the adhan, of course, how is the adhan done? You get up on top of the masjid. That's how it was done in the old days. You get up and you scream at the top of your voice, "Allahu Akbar!" This is appropriate for a woman to go up there. No, it's not appropriate. Not because her voice is aura. Similarly in Salah, the Prophet ﷺ said the best lines in Salah are the last lines for the women. So they are at the very back of the masjid. And the best lines for men are at the front. Men are in the front of the masjid. So if a man makes a mistake, for her to call out, "Subhanallah," so that the Imam could hear, no. So clap. It's enough. She doesn't have to be screaming at the top of her lungs because she's going to be at the end of the masjid. Those who are close to him, the men, they say, "Subhanallah." Also note here that those people who argue that when Muslims gather and they appreciate the presentation of a speaker, that you shouldn't clap because in the Quran Allah describes the prayer of the pagans as being clapping and whistling, that is a false argument. That is a false argument. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ told the women to clap in Salah. If a man makes a mistake in Salah, they should clap. So if it's not permissible, why is he going to tell them to do it in Salah? However, it is not appropriate because it is the way of the kuffar. This is why. Because that's their way. Whenever they want to show appreciation, they all clap, blah, 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 blah. That's their way. And as Muslims, we try to take other ways. That's why we say it is not appropriate. Not the argument about it being clapping and whistling. Just for clarification.
There's an announcement. Mrs. Fauzia is requested to go out. Your husband's waiting outside. From Erode.
What is the difference in touching the Quran with ablution and without? And my question is, then miracle.
Isn't that your question?
First question. My second question is.
I think you're only allowed one question.
Please, brother.
I think you're only allowed one question. There are many people lined up behind you. Okay.
Thank you.
The difference between touching the Quran with ablution and without ablution is that one who makes ablution when he touches the Quran is rewarded for having the ablution. And the one who doesn't make ablution doesn't get reward because he didn't have the ablution for having the ablution. But as to the reading of the Quran, he gets the same 10 hasanas for every letter, whether he has ablution or whether he doesn't. Go ahead.
Is the practice of reciting the Holy Quran in groups after making a niyyah to do so, if the Almighty Allah fulfills a particular wish, permissible according to the Sunnah? Jazakallah.
No, it is not. And beware of calling the Quran Al-Quran Al-Kareem, Al-Quran Al-Azim, the Holy Quran. Beware. That is imitation of the Christians who call their book the Holy Bible. So we want to be like them, since they can call their book the Holy Bible, so we'll call the Quran the Holy Quran. But Allah never called the Quran the Holy Quran. The Prophet ﷺ never called the Quran the Holy Quran. The Sahaba never called the Quran the Holy Quran. They use the same descriptions used by Allah in the Quran, Al-Quran Al-Kareem, the noble Quran, Al-Quran Al-Azim, the magnificent Quran, and so on and so forth. As to that practice, the practice is not from Islam at all. Reciting the Quran in unison, asking that the reward go to Allah, or seeking some kind of special benefit, this is not from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ or his companions. This is a bid'ah or invention. Now, in the course of teaching children the Quran, you may recite a verse and all the children recite after you. That is for learning purposes. Like this is okay, but to turn it into a means of achieving some kind of benefit, it is not pleasing to Allah, because it's not in accordance with the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Is it possible to take loans from the bank?
Yes, it is possible to take loans from the banks, but it's haram.
Since bank deals with interest, is it possible to work as an employee in the bank?
It is possible to work as an employee in the bank, but it is also haram.
Sisters, please.
My question is it allowed for girls to go on an excursion with lady teachers for a day or two?
The journey should not be more than 24 hours. If it is girls above puberty, it should not be more than 24 hours. Girls below puberty, the teacher herself needs to have her mahram along with her, if it is more than 24 hours.
From Quran, chapter 4, verse 31, it says, "If you avoid the great sins which you are forbidden to do, we shall expiate from you your small sins and admit you to noble entrance paradise." Can you explain this, please? Does that mean that you should do the small sins, you can do it? It will be forgiven if you stop doing bigger sins.
Well, what is Allah telling us here? You are going to do sins. You are a human being, as the Prophet ﷺ said, "Kullu bani Adam khata." Every descendant of Adam makes mistakes. He commits sins. وَخَيْرُ الْخَطَّائِينَ التَّوَّابُونَ. And the best of those who make sins are those who turn back to Allah in repentance.